The broken lock mocked me every time I came home. I stood in the dim hallway of my apartment building, keys dangling uselessly from my fingers, staring at the gap where the deadbolt used to sit flush against the doorframe. 2 weeks now. 2 weeks since someone had tried to kick in my door. And 2 weeks since the landlord had promised to fix it, and then promptly forgot I existed. I couldn't blame him entirely. I was 3 months behind on rent. My scrubs clung to my skin, damp with the kind of sweat that came from 12 hours on your feet in an understaffed emergency room. My lower back screamed. My shoes, held together with superglue and determination, had finally given up around hour 10. I'd finished my shift barefoot, my feet protesting against cold linoleum with every step, but Mia was safe. That's what mattered. My daughter was sleeping at Mrs. Park's apartment down the hall, clutching the stuffed rabbit I'd found at a thrift store for her 6th birthday last month. Mrs. Park never asked for money, just occasionally accepted the groceries I brought when I had a few extra dollars. She understood what it meant to be alone in this city. I pushed the door open, hating how easily it gave. The chair I'd wedged against it from the inside had fallen over. My heart jumped into my throat until I remembered I'd left through the fire escape this morning to avoid waking Mrs. Park early. The apartment greeted me with familiar decay. Water stains on the ceiling, the smell of mold I couldn't afford to remediate, the radiator that clanged all night but produced barely enough heat. I'd covered Mia's room with every blanket I owned, but mine stayed freezing. I dropped my bag on the kitchen counter next to the stack of bills I couldn't open yet. Medical debt from Mia's pneumonia last winter. Student loans from the nursing degree that was supposed to save us. The restraining order renewal fee I didn't have. My ex Marcus had been quiet for 6 months. The restraining order expired in 3 weeks. I couldn't afford to renew it. The thought sat in my stomach like a stone as I wedged the chair back under the doorknob, testing it twice. It wouldn't stop anyone determined, but it might give me enough warning to grab Mia and run. I'd mapped out the fire escape route a dozen times. Had a bag packed with essentials hidden under my bed, just in case. I showered quickly, the water barely warm, and collapsed onto my mattress, still damp. Sleep pulled at me immediately, my body too exhausted to fight, but my mind wouldn't quiet. The broken lock, Marcus's silence, the bills, the constant grinding terror that I couldn't keep us safe, couldn't provide enough, couldn't be enough. Somewhere around 3 a.m., I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate. They stopped outside my door. I held my breath, one hand reaching for my phone, the other for the kitchen knife I kept under my pillow. The footsteps paused. I could hear breathing on the other side of the thin door. Then nothing. Silence stretched. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the footsteps retreated down the hallway, slow and measured, like whoever it was had all the time in the world. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Morning came grey and cold. I retrieved Mia from Mrs. Park, kissed her sleepy face, got her ready for school. Everything normal, everything fine. I checked the hallway before we left. Nothing out of place. Just paranoia, I told myself. Just exhaustion playing tricks. I dropped Mia at school, watched her run inside with her too small backpack, and headed to the hospital for another shift. That's when I saw it. Parked across the street from the hospital entrance. A black SUV with tinted windows so dark they looked like voids. Expensive, new. Wrong for this neighborhood where cars came to die. It sat there, engine running, and though I couldn't see through those windows, I felt it. Someone was watching me. The SUV was still there when my shift ended 16 hours later. I told myself I was imagining things. That expensive cars parked in hospital lots all the time. That I was running on 4 hours of sleep in 3 days and seeing threats where none existed. I told myself a lot of lies that day. The subway ride home felt longer than usual. Every man in a suit made my pulse spike. Every set of eyes that lingered too long made my skin crawl. By the time I climbed the stairs to my apartment, I'd convinced myself I was losing my mind. Then I saw my door. I stopped 3 steps away, my keys frozen halfway to the lock that wasn't there anymore. The broken, damaged lock with its splintered wood and gap wide enough to see through gone. In its place sat something that belonged on a bank vault. Brushed steel, heavy-duty, with a keypad that glowed faintly blue in the dim hallway. The entire door frame had been reinforced with metal plating. Professional, expensive, impossible. My hand shook as I touched the new lock. Solid, cold, real. I hadn't authorized this. Couldn't have afforded it if I'd wanted to. The landlord barely fixed burst pipes, let alone installed $1,000 security systems for tenants behind on rent. The door opened at my touch and locked. My stomach dropped. Someone had been inside. I should have run. Should have called the police. Grabbed Mia from Mrs. Parks and disappeared. Instead, I pushed the door open wider, my breath shallow, and stepped into my apartment. Nothing looked disturbed. The bills still sat on the counter. Mia's drawings still covered the refrigerator. My work bag lay where I'd dropped it yesterday. Everything exactly as I'd left it. Except for the small white card on my kitchen counter. Heavy cardstock. Expensive. The kind of paper that whispered money. Elegant script in black ink. Just 3 lines. Broken things shouldn't stay broken. You're welcome. My hands trembled as I read it once, twice, 3 times. The words blurred. Someone had been in my home. Had touched my things. Had replaced my lock without permission, without warning, and left a calling card like this was normal. Like I should be grateful. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, my finger hovering over the call button. What would I say? Someone fixed my door and scared me? An anonymous benefactor committed the crime of making my apartment safer. They'd think I was insane. I called the landlord instead. He answered on the 5th ring, annoyed. The lock on 3B, I said, my voice tight. Did you replace it? What? No. I told you, building's got no budget for. Someone replaced it. Tonight. Industrial-grade system. Who authorized it? Silence. Then, lady, I don't know what you're talking about. You want a new lock. You pay for it yourself. He hung up. I stood in my kitchen, the card clutched in my hand, and felt the walls closing in. Someone knew where I lived. Knew my lock was broken. Had the resources to replace it with military-grade hardware. Had walked through my home while I worked. And they'd signed it with a single letter, D. I checked every room, every closet, under Mia's bed. Nothing missing. Nothing moved. Just that perfect new lock and the card that felt like a leash around my throat. That night, I wedged the chair under the doorknob anyway. Old habits. But I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, listening to the building settle. The lock was perfect, impenetrable, and I'd never felt more trapped in my life. They were everywhere once I started looking. The black SUV outside the hospital wasn't alone anymore. There was another one parked down the street from Mia's school. A third idling at the corner near the subway station I used every morning. Always the same make, same tinted windows, same sense of patient waiting. I started documenting them. Photos on my phone, times and locations scribbled on napkins during my breaks. 5 days of surveillance, and I had proof. Someone was following me. The police officer who took my report looked at my photos with barely concealed boredom. Ma'am, these are just parked cars. Could be Ubers, could be anyone. You got a plate number? The windows are too dark to see. Then there's nothing we can do. Call us if someone actually approaches you. I wanted to scream. Instead, I went home to my perfect new lock and my anonymous benefactor's calling card, which I'd hidden in my nightstand like evidence of a crime I couldn't prove. The gift started the next day. I came home from my shift to find grocery bags outside my door. Not the generic store brand items I bought with coupons, expensive organic produce. Imported pasta, fresh salmon, real butter, Mia's favorite yogurt in the fancy individual containers I never bought because they cost 3 times as much. No receipt, no explanation, just another white card tucked into the top bag. You work too hard to eat poorly. I should have thrown it all away. Should have refused this violation disguised as generosity. Instead, I stared at the fresh strawberries, Mia's favorite, impossibly expensive in winter, and felt tears burn my eyes. I kept the food. 2 days later, I got the call from Mia's school. Her tuition for the entire year had been paid in full by an anonymous donor. The administrator sounded thrilled. I felt sick. I didn't authorize this, I said, gripping my phone so hard my knuckles went white. Who paid it? The donor requested anonymity. It's not uncommon several families receive scholarship assistance. You should feel blessed, Miss Chun. Blessed. I felt owned. That afternoon, I returned home to find new winter coats hanging in our closet. Adult size for me, child size for Mia. North Face, tag still attached, exactly our sizes. My hands shook as I touched the fabrics, so much warmer than our threadbare thrift store jackets. The card was pinned to mine. Winter is coming. You deserve better. I tore the apartment apart looking for cameras. Crawled on my hands and knees, checking electrical outlets, searched every corner, every vent. Nothing. But he knew our sizes, knew Mia's favorite yogurt, knew our routines down to the minute. He was watching, constantly. The man appeared at my usual coffee shop the next morning. Expensive suit, dark hair touched with grey at the temples, sitting in the corner booth with a newspaper he never read. His eyes tracked me from the moment I entered until I left with my coffee. He didn't try to hide it. I checked the hospital security footage during my break. There he was, again, or someone like him, following me to my car after a night shift 3 days ago. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of predatory grace that came from training. Professional, deliberate, terrifying. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the building made me jump. The perfect lock that should have made me feel safe felt like a collar. The groceries in my refrigerator felt like bait. The paid tuition felt like a chain. D was tightening his grip, gift by gift, day by day. And the worst part, the part that made shame burn in my throat, was that some small, exhausted part of me wanted to stop fighting. Wanted to accept the help I desperately needed, even if it came from a stranger who'd invaded every corner of my life. I fell asleep clutching my phone, the 911 screen ready. But I never pressed call. I confronted him on a Tuesday morning. The coffee shop was half empty, early commuters already gone, late risers not yet arrived. He sat in his usual corner booth, pristine in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. The newspaper lay untouched beside his untouched coffee. He was waiting for me. I'd had enough. Enough gifts. Enough surveillance. Enough of this suffocating attention from a stranger who thought he could rewrite my life without permission. My hands shook, but I crossed the coffee shop and stood before his table, arms crossed. "Who are you?" My voice came out stronger than I felt. "What do you want from me?" He looked up slowly, and the full force of his attention nearly made me step back. Dark eyes, almost black in the dim lighting, studied me with an intensity that felt physical. He was younger than I'd thought from a distance. Maybe 35, with sharp features and a jaw that could cut glass. Devastatingly handsome. Absolutely terrifying. Dante Moretti. He stood in one fluid motion, towering over me. 6'3" as Ali, broad-shouldered, radiating controlled power. "And I want to keep you safe," I laughed. It came out bitter, edged with hysteria. "Safe? You've been stalking me for weeks, breaking into my home, following my daughter. I haven't broken into anything." His voice was deep, accent threading through his words. Italian, I thought. "The lock was installed by professionals who never crossed your threshold. Everything else was left outside your door. That's supposed to make it better? It's supposed to show you I respect boundaries, even when I'd rather not." The admission hung between us, honest and unsettling. "I'm calling the police." I pulled out my phone. "They won't help you." No threat in his tone, just fact. I've committed no crime. "Generous gifts aren't illegal, Lila." My blood ran cold. "I never told you my first name." I know everything about you. He gestured to the booth. Sit, please. Let me explain. I don't want your explanations. I want you to leave me alone. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe. I'm afraid it's too late for that. Why? The word broke from me. Why me? I'm nobody. I'm just... You're extraordinary. He said it with such conviction that I forgot to breathe. 6 weeks ago, my men were conducting business near the hospital. They saw you confront 3 gang members who were selling drugs to teenagers outside the emergency entrance. My stomach dropped. I remembered that night. The kids who looked too young, the dealers who looked too dangerous. I'd been stupid, reckless, threatening to call security if they didn't leave. You stood between those boys and predators without flinching, Dante continued. You were unarmed, alone, and you didn't back down. One of my men intervened before things escalated, but I saw the footage from his body cam. His eyes darkened. I couldn't stop thinking about you. So you decided to stalk me. I decided to learn who you were. What you were. He stepped closer, voice dropping. Single mother, 3 jobs, drowning in debt you'll never escape. Abusive ex-boyfriend with a restraining order that expires in 2 weeks. You give everything to your daughter and nothing to yourself. You walk through a world that's tried to break you and you refuse to stay down. The accuracy was suffocating. You investigated me thoroughly. That's insane. You're insane. Perhaps. His hand rose, and I flinched, but he only tucked a strand of hair behind my ear with shocking gentleness. But I protect what's mine, Lila. And you became mine the moment I decided you were worth saving. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. His smile was sad, knowing, devastating. Not yet. He appeared at my door that evening. I'd just gotten Mia to bed. Her small body finally still after an hour of stalling tactics and requests for water. Mrs. Park had kept her late something, about baking cookies, and I'd been too tired to question the blessing of a quiet apartment. The knock was soft but deliberate. 3 measured raps that somehow conveyed authority. I knew who it was before I checked the peephole. Dante Moretti stood in my hallway looking like he belonged in a penthouse, not a building where the elevator had been broken for 6 months. Same expensive suit, same controlled power, but something different in his posture. Almost nervous. I opened the door with the chain still attached. How did you get past the new lock? I had it installed. I have the override code. He held up his hands, showing he was unarmed. May I come in? I have a proposal. No, Lila. My name and his accent did something to my pulse I refused to examine. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Against every instinct screaming at me to slam the door, I let him in. He filled my tiny living room like a wolf in a birdcage. Too large, too dangerous, too much. But he moved carefully, keeping distance between us, his hands visible. Non-threatening, despite everything about him being a threat. I want to help you, he said simply. I don't need help from a criminal. His jaw tightened. I'm a businessman with varied interests, some more legitimate than others. That's a pretty way of saying mafia, if you prefer the direct approach. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is a cashier's check. Enough to pay off your medical debt, student loans, and 3 years of rent. There's also paperwork for a trust fund, $200,000 for Mia's education. The numbers made my head spin. I didn't take the envelope. What's the catch? No catch. You let me protect you. Better apartment, security, peace of mind. That's all. People like you don't give something for nothing. People like me understand investment. His eyes held mine. You're worth investing in. I don't want your money. The lie tasted bitter, but I forced it out. I'm doing fine on my own. Are you? He pulled out his phone, swiped, turned it toward me. Because this is Marcus Chun, your ex-boyfriend. These photos were taken yesterday. My heart stopped. Marcus standing across from Mia's school. Marcus sitting in his car watching the playground. Marcus following Mrs. Park and my daughter down the street. The restraining order expired 4 days ago, Dante said quietly. You couldn't afford the renewal fee. He knows that. How did you... I know everything, Lila, including that he's been watching your daughter for 2 weeks. Escalating. Planning something. Terror clawed up my throat. You're lying. I have 3 weeks of surveillance proving otherwise. His voice gentled. He's dangerous. You know he is. That's why you've got the restraining order in the first place. My hands shook. Marcus had put me in the hospital twice before I'd left. Had threatened to take Mia, to hurt her if I ever tried to keep her from him. The police won't help until he actually does something. You know that too. Dante stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. I can make him disappear, completely. He'll never threaten either of you again. You mean kill him? I mean protect you. However necessary. The offer hung between us, dark and tempting and terrible. Or Dante continued, you can keep struggling alone. Keep hoping the system will save you. Keep wondering every day if today is when he takes your daughter. The trap snapped shut around me. One dinner I heard myself whisper, I'll have dinner with you, hear you out properly. That's all. Dante's smile was slow, victorious, devastating. That's all I need. The penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a building. I'd only seen from the outside, the kind of address that appeared in luxury magazines, not in the life of a nurse from the broken side of the city. Dante had sent a car, not the black SUV that had haunted me for weeks, but a sleek sedan with a driver who opened doors and called me ma'am, like I was someone who mattered. Mia was safe with Mrs. Park. I'd checked 3 times before leaving. The elevator required a key card to access the top floors. The doors opened directly into Dante's home, and I forgot how to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like a kingdom laid out for conquest. White marble floors caught the evening light and threw it back in golden sheets. Modern furniture that probably had Italian names I couldn't pronounce. Art on the walls that might have been originals. It was beautiful and cold and absolutely terrifying. Lila, Dante emerged from a hallway, and I hated that my pulse jumped. He'd changed, dark slacks, white shirt with sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and scattered with scars. Thank you for coming. I said 1 dinner. My voice sounded small in all this space. That's what I'm here for. Of course. He gestured toward a dining table set for 2 near the windows. Please. He pulled out my chair with old-world courtesy that seemed at odds with everything else about him. The table was set with china that probably cost more than my car, wine already poured, candles flickering. A woman appeared, dolder, kind-faced with the first course. Something delicate and artfully arranged. This is Maria, Dante said. She manages my household. I nodded, mute, overwhelmed. The food was incredible. I tried to focus on it, on the safe topic of flavors and presentation, but Dante's attention never wavered. He asked about me, her favorite subjects, her dreams, what made her laugh. He listened like my answers were intelligence reports, filing away every detail. I have good news, he said finally, setting down his wine glass. I've secured you a new apartment, better building, safer neighborhood, 2 bedrooms, both larger than your current living room. The move happened this afternoon. My fork clattered to the plate. What? Your belongings are already there. Maria supervised personally, nothing was damaged. You moved my things? I stood, chair scraping against marble. Without asking me, you needed a safe place. I provided one. You had no right. I also hired a bodyguard for Mia. He remained seated, maddeningly calm. Former military, excellent with children. She accompanied Mia to and from school, maintained a discreet distance during the day. Stop! My hands shook with fury. You can't just take over my life. I'm protecting it. He stood now, moving around the table with predatory grace. The new apartment has a security system. The school has been notified that only you, me, or the bodyguard can pick up Mia. Your ex-boyfriend. What about Marcus? Dante's expression went cold. It's been handled. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. "What does that mean?" I whispered. "It means he'll never threaten you again." He stepped closer. "Don't ask for details you don't want to know." Horror and relief warred in my chest. "You killed him. I protected what's mine. I'm not yours." The words exploded from me. "You don't own me. You can't just decide." He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands gripping my upper arms with controlled strength. Not painful, but inescapable. "I don't need permission to protect what's mine," he said quietly, his dark eyes burning into me. "And you became mine the moment I decided you were worth saving. That's insane. That's devotion." His hand rose, cupping my face with devastating gentleness. "I've spent 6 weeks learning everything about you, Lila. What you need, what you fear, what you deserve. And I decided that I would give you all of it, whether you're ready to accept it or not." I should have pulled away, should have run. Instead, I stood frozen, drowning in the intensity of his gaze, feeling the careful control in his touch, hating how safe I felt in the grip of a man who'd just admitted to possibly murdering my ex. "Why?" The question came out broken. "Because you're extraordinary," he breathed. "And extraordinary things deserve to be protected." 3 weeks passed in a blur of surreal normalcy. The new apartment was everything Dante had promised. Bright, clean, safe. Mia's room had space for all her toys and windows that actually opened without sticking. The heat worked. The water ran hot. The locks were fortress grade, and I stopped wedging chairs under doors for the first time in years. I hated how quickly I got used to it. The bodyguard, Sarah, was ex-Marines with gentle eyes and a concealed carry permit. Mia adored her, called her Miss Sarah, and held her hand on the walk to school. I wanted to resent her presence, but every time I saw them together, Mia safe, protected, the resistance crumbled a little more. Dante called every day, always at the same time, 7 p.m., like clockwork. "Have you eaten?" became his standard greeting. "Yes, Dante, I'm an adult. I feed myself. Humor me." That accent wrapping around words, making them sound like intimacy. "What did you have?" And I'd tell him, irritated and touched in equal measure, while he listened like my dinner choice was the most important intelligence he'd receive all day. He visited twice a week. Never stayed long, never pushed for more than I offered. He'd sit at my kitchen table drinking coffee I made, a ridiculous image, this dangerous man in his expensive suits at my second-hand table, and ask about my shifts, about Mia's school, about nothing and everything. I found myself looking forward to those visits, craving them. That terrified me more than the surveillance ever had, because I still felt his presence everywhere. The doorman who nodded too knowingly when I passed. The way problems disappeared before I even knew about them. The hospital parking pass that suddenly became free. The pharmacy that stopped charging me co-pays. The security upgrades in the building that happened overnight. Dante's invisible hand reshaping my world. I should have hated it. Instead, I felt something dangerous unfurling in my chest every time his name appeared on my phone screen. The night everything shifted. He appeared at my door at 2 a.m. I was awake. Other double shifts survived, still in my scrubs, exhausted to my bones. The knock was softer than usual. When I checked the peephole, Dante stood there looking wrong. I opened the door. "I apologize for the hour." His voice was rough, strained. "I needed to see you. To know you were safe." He looked exhausted. Shadows under his eyes, his suit jacket gone, shirt sleeves already rolled up. And blood on his knuckles, split skin, fresh, still seeping. What happened? I grabbed his hand before thinking, pulling him inside. "Business. Nothing that concerns you. You're bleeding in my entryway." "It concerns me." I guided him to the kitchen, turned on the light. The cuts weren't deep, but needed cleaning. "Sit." He obeyed, watching me with those dark eyes as I gathered supplies. First aid kit, antiseptic, bandages. My hands moved automatically, nurse mode, competent and sure. I cleaned the wounds in silence. His hands were large, scarred, hands that had probably done terrible things. But they stayed perfectly still under my touch, trembling slightly. "You didn't have to come here," I said quietly. "Yes, I did." His voice was raw. "I needed to see you, needed to know you were real." I looked up, found him watching me with an intensity that stole my breath. Not possessive, not calculating, just naked need. "Dante, don't look at me like that," he whispered, his free hand rising to cut my face. "Unless you mean it. Like what? Like you care. Like you. His thumb traced my cheekbone. "Like you feel this too." My heart hammered. "Feel what?" "This." His forehead pressed against mine. "This need to be near you. This ache when you're not close. This terrifying certainty that I'd burn the world to keep you safe." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only feel the heat of him, the tenderness of his touch, the vulnerability in his voice. "I do," I heard myself whisper. "God help me. I do." His sharp inhale was my only warning before his lips crashed against mine. The call came during my lunch break. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something instinct, maybe, or the cold finger of dread that had been trailing down my spine all morning made me pick up. "Miss Chun." A man's voice, heavily accented. Russian, I thought. "We have your daughter." The world stopped. "What?" The word came out airless, broken. "Mia, age 6. Pink backpack with unicorns. It's with us now." Background noise, a whimper I recognized. That made my heart explode. "Very pretty girl. Would be shame if something happened to her." "Don't you dare!" My voice cracked into a scream. "Don't you touch her." "Then you listen very carefully." Dante Moretti took something from Volkov family. Territory, respect, money. "You tell him he returns it all, or we return your daughter in pieces." The phone clattered from my hands. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only hear Mia's whimper echoing in my skull. My baby. My everything. I called Dante with shaking fingers. He answered on the first ring. "Lila?" They took her. The words shredded my throat. "They took Mia. They said they'd hurt her if you don't. Where are you?" His voice transformed. Cold, lethal, barely human. "The hospital." "Dante, they have my baby. Stay there, don't move." "I'm coming." The line went dead. He arrived in 7 minutes. Impossible. Unless he'd been close. Unless he'd been watching like always. The SUV screeched to a stop outside the emergency entrance. Dante emerged with 4 men, all armed, all moving with military precision. He found me in the break room, collapsed in a chair, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. "Lila." He knelt before me, hands framing my face. The controlled mask had shattered. His eyes were wild, desperate, terrifying. "Tell me everything." I repeated the call through sobs. Every word, every sound. Mia's whimper, the Russian accent, the threat. Dante's hands shook against my face. For a moment he looked draw grief and fury warring across his features. Then he pulled out his phone, spoke in rapid Italian. Commands, cold and precise, promising death. When he finished, he cupped my face again, his touch achingly gentle, despite the violence radiating from every line of his body. "Listen to me carefully." His voice was steel-wrapped in silk. "I will bring her home. I will find every man who touched her, who threatened her, who even looked at her wrong. And I will make them beg for mercy I won't give. Dante, I will burn their world to ash." His forehead pressed against mine. "I will tear this city apart brick by brick. I will show them what happens when they threaten what's mine." The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, it was the only thing keeping me breathing. "They want territory," I choked out. "Money. Whatever you took from them, they can have it all. Every inch, every dollar." His eyes burned into mine. "They can have everything except you and Mia. That's not negotiable. What if—" Terror clawed up my throat. "What if you can't find her in time?" What if I will. His conviction was absolute. I have resources they can't imagine. People who owe me favors. I've already activated every contact in this city. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I will bring our daughter home. Our daughter. The words broke something in me. Shattered every wall I'd built, every defense I'd maintained. This man who'd invaded my life, who'd refused to let me push him away, who'd protected us even when I'd fought him. He loved her. Loved us. I kissed him desperately, pouring every ounce of fear and fury and love I'd been fighting into it. Bring her home, I sobbed against his lips. Then come home to me. His eyes blazed. Always. Then he was gone. And I was left with nothing but prayers and terror, and the terrible certainty that Dante Moretti was about to become the most dangerous thing the Volkov family had ever faced. 6 hours. 6 hours of pacing the apartment while Sarah sat with me, silent and armed. 6 hours of imagining every terrible thing that could be happening to my daughter. 6 hours of dying slowly, piece by piece. Then I heard the elevator. I was at the door before it fully opened. Dante stepped out, and my world reassembled itself, because Mia was in his arms. She was sleeping, her small body curled against his chest, her face pressed into his shoulder, unmarked, whole, safe. A sound tore from my throat, something between a sob and a prayer. I reached for her, and Dante transferred her carefully into my arms. She stirred but didn't wake, just settled against me with a sleepy murmur. "Mama," she breathed. I collapsed onto the couch, holding her so tightly I was afraid I'd hurt her, but I couldn't let go. Couldn't stop checking her face, her hands, her arms. Looking for injuries, for trauma, for evidence of the nightmare that had just ended. She's unharmed. Dante's voice was hoarse. They never touched her. I made sure of that. I looked up. He stood in my living room like a ghost shirt torn, blood on his clothes that wasn't his hands shaking, the controlled mask completely shattered. "Sarah." He didn't take his eyes off me. "Take Mia to her room. Stay with her." Sarah moved forward gently, and every instinct screamed at me not to let go, but I trusted her, trusted him. I let Sarah take my sleeping daughter, watched her carry Mia into the bedroom and close the door softly. Then I turned to Dante, and he fell. Not physically, but something in him gave way. He dropped to his knees before me, his head bowing, his hands gripping my knees like I was the only thing keeping him anchored. "I put you in danger," his voice broke. "By wanting you, by making you visible in my world, I painted a target on everything you love. This is my fault. You brought her home," I whispered. "After they took her, after they terrified her. After—" He looked up, and the anguish in his eyes devastated me. "I should walk away, let you be safe, let you disappear somewhere I can't follow. It's the right thing to do." My hands found his face, framing it, forcing him to look at me. "Don't you dare." Tears streamed down my cheeks. "Don't you dare leave us now. Lila, you brought her home. You kept us safe. My voice broke. "I love you." He went completely still. "I don't want to," I continued through sobs. "I'm terrified of it. Terrified of you, of this world, of what loving you means. But I can't stop." "I love you, Dante." His hands rose, shaking as they cupped my face. "Say it again. I love you." He kissed me like I was oxygen, like I was salvation, like I was the answer to every prayer he'd never thought to say. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead pressed against mine. "Marry me," the words rushed out. "Let me protect you legally, completely. Let me be yours the way you're already mine. Let me," his voice cracked. "Let me deserve you. Yes." I didn't hesitate, couldn't hesitate. Yes, relief crashed across his features. He pulled a box from his pocket with shaking hands. Velvet, expensive, containing a ring that caught the light like captured stars. Platinum band. Single perfect diamond. Simple. Devastating. Right. He slid it onto my finger, then pressed his lips to my hand, to the ring, to the promise we'd just made. I will spend the rest of my life protecting you, he breathed. Both of you. Nothing will ever hurt you again. I believed him. For the first time since he'd crashed into my life, I believed every word. 6 months later, I awoke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and Dante's arm wrapped around my waist. Our bedroom, our home, our life. The penthouse had transformed since I'd moved in. Mia's artwork covered one entire wall. Her toys lived in organized chaos in the third bedroom Dante had converted into a playroom. Photos lined the hallways, our small family captured in moments of joy I'd never thought I'd have. I turned in Dante's arms, studied his sleeping face. The sharp edges softened in rest, the dangerous mask dropped. Just a man who loved me with terrifying intensity. His eyes opened, immediately finding mine. Good morning, Mrs. Moretti. Mrs. Moretti. The name still made my heart skip. We'd married quickly. Small ceremony. Just the people who mattered. Mia as flower girl in a dress that made her look like a princess. Sarah and Maria as witnesses. A handful of Dante's trusted men standing guard, ensuring nothing could touch us on our day. When Dante had slipped the matching platinum band onto my finger and promised to love and protect me for the rest of our lives, I'd believed him completely. He'd proven it every single day since. Papa! Mia's voice rang out from the hallway seconds before she burst through the door, launching herself onto the bed between us. Papa! She'd started calling him that 3 months ago, and Dante had cried. Actually cried, holding our daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. Good morning, Principessa. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. Did you sleep well? Uh-huh. Miss Maria's making pancakes. The chocolate chip ones? She scrambled off the bed, racing back toward the kitchen. Dante watched her go with such naked love on his face that my chest ached. I need to tell you something, I said quietly. His attention shifted to me immediately, eyes sharpening. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's single quotes, S. I took his hand, placed it on my stomach. Everything's perfect. He went completely still. Understanding dawned slowly, then blazed. His voice broke. Pregnant. 8 weeks. His hands shook as they settled on my stomach, cradling the life we'd created. Hours, I confirmed. He pulled me into his arms, holding me like I might disappear. A son, he breathed against my hair. A daughter. I don't care. Just healthy. Just safe. Protective already, I teased, but my voice was thick with emotion. Always. He pulled back, cupping my face. I will protect you both. All 3 of you. With everything I am. I believed him. Life wasn't perfect. Dante's world still had darkness in it. Business that required his attention. Threats that emerged and were handled. Moments when I saw the dangerous man beneath the loving husband. But he kept that world away from us. Kept us safe in the light while he handled the shadows. I still worked at the hospital, in the emergency department Dante had donated to anonymously. He'd insisted I could stop, but I needed to work. Needed to help people. He understood, even hired additional security to keep me safe during night shifts. Elena's old apartment building had been purchased and renovated by an anonymous benefactor. Affordable. Housing with proper locks, working heat, safety for families like I'd been. Dante had never admitted it was him. Didn't need to. That afternoon I found him in his office, staring at something on his desk. I moved closer, saw what he held. The original white card. The first one he'd left in my apartment. Broken things shouldn't stay broken. You kept it, I said softly. He looked up, pulled me into his lap. A reminder of what? Of the day I decided you were mine. His hand settled on my stomach. The day everything changed. I leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the strength of his arms, the absolute certainty of his love. He'd fixed my broken lock, then he'd fixed my broken life. And in return, I'd given him something he'd never thought he'd have. A home, a family, a reason to be more than the dangerous man the world saw. I love you, I whispered. His arms tightened. Always mine, always yours.